suggest we get started. So, hello everybody, and welcome to this hybrid seminar, The Stolen Youth of Taiji Men. We are in Walnut, California, the Taiji Men Academy, and we are 4 days before the UN International Youth Day, and we will have some other friends connected via video or Zoom. I would like to introduce the theme of the Youth Day with a short meditation on Generation Z. You know, Generation Z are those young women and men born after 1996. Those born between 1981 and 96 are called millennials. There are now dozens of scholarly studies, articles, books about Generation Z and religion. And there is a widespread claim that Generation Z is the first non-religious generation, at least in some Western country. For example, that's very recent. In March 2022, the Survey Center on American Life found that 34% of Generation Z Americans were nones, a term indicating those not affiliated with any religion. And 18% even identified themselves explicitly as atheistic. Both numbers were higher than those concerning the millennials. And the study also claimed that there were several factors supporting the prediction that, contrary to what happened with previous generation, those young Americans in Generation Z will not come back to religion later. In Italy in 2016, sociologist Franco Garelli published a book called Little Atheists Grow Up, claiming that 30% of the late millennials and Generation Z he surveyed were atheists or agnostics. In 2018, a study by St. Mary's University in London, prepared for the Synod of Catholic Bishops, found that in the Czech Republic, 91% of Generation Z were nones, 75% in Sweden, 60% in France, although only 25% in Lithuania. Now, my comment to this is we cannot really compare all these surveys because they ask different questions to slightly different cohorts of age in different countries. Nonetheless, sociologists have offered some tentative conclusions about Generation Z that I would classify in 4 groups. The first conclusion is that several scholars agree that the number of nones and even the number of atheists and agnostics is growing among young people in most Western countries, although significant national differences exist. And this claim that Generation Z is less religious than the millennials. Second, most sociologists expect that the phenomenon, which is reassuring for religionists, that young people don't go to church when they are like 14, 16, 18, but then they will come back when they will marry and have children and get old. But many sociologists, I don't know if they are right, I'm just surveying their conclusions, say that will not happen this time. And they say that already we start observing the older millennials, and they have married, they have children, but they don't go back to church, or at least not as much as previous generations. And of course, prediction can be wrong, and are also very much different from one country to the other. The third conclusion is we should, however, not confuse the nones with the atheists. All the atheists are nones, but not all nones are atheists. And all of these surveys insist that the number of atheists, even if growing among young people, remains comparatively small. So millions of young people throughout the Western world do not affiliate with any religion or may not like institutional religion, but they have a lot of beliefs about religion and spirituality. So they are not atheists. There is still a majority affirming the existence of God, even if not necessarily the Christian God or a personal God. And many leave traditional religions not to atheism, but to explore new spiritual paths. Fourth, and I believe that's important for Taiji Men, as emphasizing particularly for Italy by Garelli in his book, he says that it is true that in the Generation Z, there are less religiously affiliated young people, but those who are affiliated are much more active and enthusiastic. And he found, for instance, that among late millennials and Generation Z in Italy, 12% are not only active in religion, but activists. So people active in mission, in proselytization, etc. There are not many studies that I know of, or perhaps some I don't know of because they are in Chinese, about Taiwan. I only found some like 10 years old, but they seem to confirm that the situation is similar to other affluent democratic societies, including the United States. So the young people tend not to be affiliated with institutional religion, but most young people maintain spiritual beliefs, and atheists are not in the majority. And sociologists know that this context are also favorable for the emergence of forms of spirituality alternative to the main line. And so the Taiwanese context explains why so many young people in Taiwan embraced and continue to embrace vibrant and persuasive alternative spiritual organizations, including Taiji Men. And since they do not simply conform to social partners, this young dizzy, they don't go to Taiji Men because it's the thing everybody does. It's a personal choice, although many have parents who are already dizzy. The phenomenon of the committed minority but very active, described by Garelli for Italy, is also at work. The young dizzy may be part of a minority, but they are a very committed and very active group. Indeed, one may argue that the commitment of the younger dizzy is something exceptional. Many have been to faraway countries at their own expenses to promote Taiji Men's culture of peace, love, and conscience, which is not common. Now, it may seem a very nice story, an exemplary story, but it comes with a price. in each society, there are forces that dislike what does not conform to the usual schemes, and there's something new to say, even if the message is rooted in a very old tradition and cannot be easily controlled. So enthusiastic young women and men who travel outside the more common paths are not always applauded, and they may be harassed and persecuted. So this is what happened to Taiji Men, and the rogue bureaucrats were the executioners, but the machinery that did not tolerate the freedom, independence, and creativity of Taiji Men had deeper roots, which perhaps exists, as Holly said in a recent conference, in many parts of the world, but surely in Taiwan indicate the systemic problems of a young democracy. So this introduction was to show that the question of the commitment or non-commitment of the younger generations to the spiritual paths, new or old, traditional or non-traditional, is a very important question in the contemporary study of religion. So this seminar on youth and Taiji Men really goes to the center of very crucial questions for the scholars studying religion. But before going to other scholarly papers, I believe we have a beautiful musical videos about young Dizi from ethnic minorities in Taiwan singing about the Youth Day. So we will first see the relaxing video and then proceed with the work of the seminar.
我从小在山上长大，记得小时候的我很爱哭，但童年生活却简单而快乐。长大了，忘记怎么哭了，快乐也变得不简单。日子一天一天过，想起以前小时候，外婆带我到溪边。我喜欢她哼唱的一首歌，很美、很干净的一首歌。每次回忆起那首歌，我仿佛又回到了那个最简单、最快乐的心。真的。
Samila
国的孩子。
So thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, because of the time zone problems, some of our usual speakers, friends we hear from in almost all our webinars, have contributed through videos. So the first speaker via video is Marco Respinti. Many of you know, who is an Italian scholar of American political thought and journalist, serving as director in charge of Bitterwinter.
Youth is the best age in life. It is the spring of hope and the blossoming of opportunities. Maturity is the age of wisdom only if it retains the sprinkle of youth within itself. Senility is not just withering old, only if it serves to guide what Anglo-American poet T.S. Eliot and his American disciple Russell Kirk used to call the rising generation. We all admire youth, but sadly, youth is sometimes wasted. It is dissipated when it is lived with no purpose and no perspective. It is misused when it is not grabbed and held, but merely let pass. It is useless when it doesn't bear fruit. It is so common to regret youth once we have become old. And it is so miserable to repent of a wasted youth once it is gone forever. The best wish we can make to young people is never to repent for not having lived a full youth. The best desire we can have for them is never to rue a youth wasted either in idleness or vice. All these depend on ourselves. We may not be wise enough to see it when we are young, but it is always our responsibility to face our life. Nobody else should be blamed if time for us remained only time, not developing in experience and not growing as sagacity. Yet another danger threatens youth, and it comes not from within, but from without. It is when young people are robbed of that spring, that sparkle, and that blossoming that is their youth. When they are compelled to grow too fast, when their experience of the world becomes a mere strategy for survival in a hostile environment, in a world when they are blatantly stolen their youth. This is what happened to an entire generation of Taiwanese citizens whose only fault was to belong to the peaceful spiritual movement called Taizhimen. A generation is a unit of time measurement used since antiquity. It is time measured by the link between parents and children. It is thus the most basic unity for measuring historical time. In fact, history is time considered by a subject who has conscience of its flowing. History is a peculiar human notion and feature. While the whole universe lives in history, only human beings have conscience of living in a flowing and purposeful time, making history. Generations, with their passing of a heritage, are then the peculiar place where history is made. Conscience is thus the center of history. With no conscience, there is no history. But only the dull passing of time without understanding it is passing. Taizhimen has put this concept at the center of its reflections and events. On January 1st, 2014, the Federation of World Peace and Love, the Association of World Citizens, and the Taizhimen Qigong Academy jointly promulgated the movement called an era of conscience. Its basic tenet is that, quote, everyone is the leader and guide of his or her own conscience, end of quote. This is precisely what is needed to make history. Sociologists and historians consider a generation a group of people living in the same portion of time as actors and subjects of the same events. A generation is generally considered to be a span of 20, 30 years, or the time needed to allow new human beings to be born and raised and become adults. If a generation is calculated to be 20 to 30 years, a period of 25 years is right at the center of this notion. We all know that the Taizhimen movement is at the center of a persecution that has been lasting for more than 25 years, for more than a quarter of a century, meaning an entire generation. An entire generation was spent in persecution, an entire group of young people whose youth has been denied its proper features and role. This is a wasted generation. In a sorrowful way, Taizhimen is making history, and it is at the center of history. Stealing youth is a feature of all totalitarian regimes where ideologies produce idiocracies. In fact, totalitarian states always claim to know better than their citizens. They constantly try to manipulate the conscience of their youth. Examples are all too numerous and all too sad. The Soviet Union created the All-Union Leninist Young Communist League, known as Komsomol. It was a mass organization regarded as the youth division of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. It was created as early as 1918, showing the great interest of the Soviet state in educating young people to make them grow as perfect communist citizens, away from the nefarious influence of their families. The Komsomol was organized in 3 different stages for young people from the age of 5 up to 28. On the same model, Nazi Germany created the Hitlerjugend, or Hitler Youth. Its very name manifested the cult of personality that obsessed that regime and affirmed the idea of a state exerting total control on the youth. It was created in 1922, 4 years after the Soviet Komsomol, and it was the only allowed boys' organization in Germany until the very fall of the regime and the death of Adolf Hitler in the spring of 1945. It gathered young males into different groups from the age of 10 to 18. Of course, also Communist China has its own totalitarian form of control of the youth. The Chinese Communist Party's organization for the youth is called Young Pioneers of China. And contrary to what happened to similar organizations in the Soviet Union and the Third Reich, it still exists, since totalitarianism in the People's Republic of China has not yet been swept away. This CCP's mass organization gathered all young from the age of 6 to 14, and it is run by the Communist Youth League. Let me briefly mention the case of fascism in Italy. Contrary to what it is often told uncritically, Italian fascism differed from Nazism in Germany and the communist regimes because it was not fully totalitarian. It displayed many features of a totalitarian regime, but was not able to reach a full totalitarian autarky as much as it wanted to. This, of course, does not go to the credit of the fascist regime. It was due to some cultural and social forces rooted in Italian society, which managed to contain the regime. They were mainly the Catholic Church and the monarchy of the House of Savoy, even if fascism in turn tried to control them and limit their action. One of the spheres where the antagonism between the Catholic Church and the fascist regime was more obvious was the education of youth. The contest was won by the Church, and this is a spectacular example of a field where Italian fascism wanted to become fully totalitarian, but did not manage to achieve this result. In the Concordat signed by the Vatican and the Italian state in 1929, it was clearly stated that the families and the Catholic Church had a primary right to educating children, an activity that was not a monopoly of the state. Not surprisingly, the fascist regime did try to tamper with this agreement, but thanks to the firm opposition of the Catholic Church, the damages it was able to do to education remained limited. Thinking of what an entire generation of Taiwanese citizens, Taiji Mendizi, was compelled to suffer because of the inflexible, tyrannical, and cynical attitude of some corrupt bureaucrat, I was reminded of these totalitarian attempts to control the youth of an entire country. Many Taiji Mendizi were born in persecution, grew in persecution, became adults in persecution. Many of them have experienced nothing else than persecution. For a democratic society, allied of the democratic West in counteracting the misdeeds of totalitarian and tyrannical countries in a delicate region of the world, this is frankly too much. Taiwan is under siege since more than 60 years by a regional and international power that kidnapped its own youth to impose them an inhumane ideology. Taiwan is now living crucial hours. It should immediately look at its own youth and set it free. It should immediately free Taiji Mendizi of the consequences of old false accusation and let its youth be the hope of the future again. Unfortunately, for too many of them, it is too late. No one may give back to them what was stolen. The only possible reparation is to stop repeating the same errors again and publicly apologize for a stolen youth. Let me conclude with a personal wish by using some verses from a beautiful poem called Mia Giovinezza, My Youth, from Italian poet Ada Negri. She says, I have not lost you. You remained at the bottom of being. It is you, but another you are. Without leaf nor flower, without the shining laughter you had at the time that does not return, without that song. Another you are, more beautiful. O timeless youth, O ever renewed hope, I commit thee to those who are to come, until on earth spring blooms again, and in the sky the stars are born when the sun is extinguished.
So thank you to Marco Respinti, and now we have another familiar face, Willy Fautré, who is co-founder and director of the NGO Human Rights Without Frontiers in Brussels, Belgium, and he has also took an interest for years in the Taiji Men case. So we have now a video from Willy Fautré.
This week, the UN International Youth Day will be celebrated in various ways across the world. This year, the theme is intergenerational solidarity. The link between generations is extremely important because it is through the transmission of knowledge and know-how that human beings have survived over the centuries and millennia, that they have become what they are now, and that humanity has become what it is in the 21st century. However, the transmission is not one way from older people to younger people. The older generation also learns from the younger generation. I'm sure that all of us, we have experienced this interaction and could give many examples. In my case, as a teacher, I have passed on a lot of things in a certain area to thousands of my students during my whole career. But they have also changed my life a lot, without most probably not realizing it. My lifelong commitment to religious freedom came from one of my very young students. Without her, you would not have found me, and I would not have found you. Another example, my constant adaptation to new communication technologies also comes from my younger people working as interns in the office of our NGO Human Rights Without Frontiers. Intergenerational solidarity is in constant interaction between generations that follow each other, partially overlap, and interpenetrate each other. All the people share their personal experience gained at a certain time in a certain environment. Younger people appropriated it in their own environment and build on it. Every generation leaves behind a legacy with good and bad things, but also with unsolved problems. For 26 years now, Taiji Man has been persecuted by the National Tax Bureau and prosecutor Hu Guanyan, who fabricated evidence to falsely accuse Taiji Man of fraud. In 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that Taiji Man was innocent of all charges and didn't owe any taxes. But the saga went on because the National Tax Bureau refused to apply the court decision. And in August 2020, the National Taxation Bureau, in cooperation with the Administrative Enforcement Agency, unlawfully auctioned Taiji Man's land. For 26 years, the Taxation Administration has been turning a deaf ear to outside experts and has not consulted any. It has ignored all the court rulings and even the Supreme Court. It has illegally imposed taxes and auctioned Taiji Man's property instead of abiding by the highest national court, instead of apologizing and reimbursing Taiji Man. A whole generation of Dizi has their youth and more because of this persecution, and has also been strong in the defense of the values and the honor of Taiji Man. Despite their obstinate fight for a quarter of a century, they have reluctantly transferred this unsolved burden to the next generation, but they have also been infusing their determination to fight against injustice and human rights violations in the education of their children. Another great challenge today, inherited from 2 centuries of unbridled industrialization, is the rapid climate change, which threatens the survival of humankind if individual and collective behaviors are not taken into account in practice in all human activities. Taiji Man has long been involved in intergenerational solidarity for saving the planet. One only has to look at the number of young people in demand to realize the impact of Dr. Hong's teachings on personal and collective morality and sense of responsibility. Many Dizi have traveled around the world with Dr. Hong to participate in events and actions aiming at spreading love, peace, solidarity, and humanity. With such a mission in mind, Dr. Hong, I would say, has led the Federation of World Peace and Love, the Taiji Man Qigong Academy, and the Association of World Citizens, activities such as cultural exchanges, ceremonies of ringing the bell of world peace and love, and world summits of love and peace to promote appreciations of and respect for different cultures and to ignite the goodwill and of all and consolidate their consensus. Dr. Hong also encourages the youth to participate in international volunteering that allows them to utilize their talents and skills and contribute to society and community well-being. This is creating a culture of conscience that transcends national boundaries and it benefits global citizens. Young people in Taijimen are Dr. Hong's peaceful army for spreading peace and brotherly love among all human beings. This is the mission of the next generation of Dizzy. This is your mission here and now. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Willy Fautré. And now we should have connected via Zoom. I hope it's true. Stephen Nada. Hi, Stephen, who is president and co-founder of the International Committee on Nigeria. Stephen is a Baptist pastor and a well-known human rights activist. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Greetings from Atlanta here. Thank you, Dr. Introvine. When it comes to this issue, the stolen youth of the Taijimen, in regards to UN International Youth Day, and with the team Intergenerational Solidarity, I would like to make some pragmatic points in this regard. First of all, I would like to establish that Taijimen are prisoners of conscience. And with that, I would like to establish that this Youth Day is very important, and this should be of significant importance to youth and many youth organizations across the globe. I see a situation whereby the transmission of values and morality that Taijimen exudes has been elusive, because I could see a situation whereby there is separation of morality not being able to be transmitted to the young men and women who actually exude the value of Dr. Hong. And now, with this year team, like I said, I would like to be pragmatic in this regard because I'm looking at solution-oriented approach. So this should be the rallying cry to build a pressure point for every youth across the world to rise up and preserve the culture of rights and dignity of those whose rights are trampled upon by state actors that have manipulated the system to suppress the rights of others, especially the Taijimen. When we talk about intergenerational solidarity, how does this address the issue of the Taijimen case? Because I've listened to the past speakers, and I look at how exactly can this solidarity be addressed specifically in the case of the Taijimen. Because the Taijimen have been denied their constitutional right over the last 2 decades. So now the missing link is there. They have been denied their rights, and courts of competent jurisdiction say that they have committed no crime. So what I see here, there is lack of will to act by the powerful elite groups across the world. And the crime against the Taijimen has been ignored. But I think also the missing link to consolidate the intergenerational solidarity amongst youth across board is lack of communication, information sharing, and network building. Because when you mention Taijimen case, a lot of people, even here in the United States, they will ask you what exactly that is. And with the values of peace building, this has to be amplified, because a lot of young men and women have to learn so much from Taijimen philosophy and this religious and cultural awareness. So I would like to propose a model, because I say I'm taking it not from scholarship approach. I'm taking it from pragmatic approach that can help us advance even the cause that has been neglected for the lack of will to act by people who should. So if we look at the intergenerational solidarity specific to Taijimen case, I would like to mention citizen-to-citizen diplomacy. That is what I think should happen, and it should start right away here in the United States. What I mean by citizen-to-citizen diplomacy, traditionally we know diplomacy always occurs between two different countries. But in this regard, it will be citizens of Taiwan who are in Taiwan, or any Taiwanese residing outside Taiwan, to begin to build solidarity with other citizens of host nations and to highlight the issue and the plight of the Taijimen case. There are many Taiwanese students scattered across colleges in Europe and North America. We can research and identify if any of them is interested in the Taijimen case, and which presumptively I think should be interested. It means we have to organize a session to first educate them about the issue of the Taijimen case. This should be like religious evangelism scattered across campuses and schools around the world. If all of us Taijimen advocates have begun this, we should start. If we have not, we should start immediately. Taijimen is blessed with advocates like us who are professionals across the United States as well. We should begin to invite our friends who are citizens of the United States to share this problem with them, and for them to amplify it and send letters to their congressmen and senators that Taijimen youth has been stolen and they are prisoner of conscience, and the whole world must not be silent. We must act, and we must act. Our action must be now. Because I could see other nations who come to the United States to engage Washington, D.C. policy space, building solidarity, citizen-to-citizen diplomacy, helping their cases to be heard. So this is one point I think pragmatically we should be able to explore. So the last suggestion would be to identify advocates of Taijimen in Taiwan who are living in Taiwan and connect them with individuals, human rights organizations, and churches in the United States to explain the injustice meted to the Taijimen by the Taiwanese government. The victims will have other citizens listening to them, and the friendship and bond that will be created from this relationship will cascade into a momentum and exposure of the Taiwanese government abuse of the Taijimen across the United States. What the Taiwanese government will not want is for groups exposing their culpability by not respecting the right of Taijimen. In this instance, where there is a court judgment that vindicated the Taijimen of any tax crime or fraud. I feel committed to citizen-to-citizen diplomacy, and I'm here to amplify that. I'm here to talk to others. Like I said, we want victims to speak with other citizens across continents and force the hand of Taiwanese government and that of colluding institutions to be named and sanctioned. Thank you.
For his passionate words, he always shows he feels strongly about the Taijimen case and offers useful suggestions. And for the second part of our seminar, I will now pass the podium to Holly Falk. Holly Falk is a professor of religious studies at Western Washington University in Bellingham, Washington, and she will accompany us in this second part of the seminar devoted to additional videos and testimonies.
Thank you, Massimo. Thank everyone for your attention. It's wonderful to be here with friends, even if we're taking time to address a serious and unhappy issue that has gone on for so long. In my research, I do comparative religion. And one of the things I'm always trying to do when I study globalization and also when I do activism is to point out the global parallels for both the Taijimen case and other human rights cases. There are analogs in terms of harassment and specifically tax abuses and other types of kind of bureaucratic difficulties that religious minorities and other groups face around the world, with parallels to the Taijimen case. And so right now we're going to watch a video, and I hope I'm getting the title right. I think it's called "The Dutch Prime Minister Leads the Resignation of the Cabinet Over a Tax Scandal." It might be called Tax Scandal in the Netherlands, but I think it will be very illuminating to talk about how tax abuse is a global problem.
The Dutch Prime Minister leads the resignation of the cabinet over a tax scandal. A decade of harassment by the Dutch tax authorities for suspected abuse of welfare policies due to racial discrimination. Fortunately, the administration was brave enough to admit its mistake and successfully diffuse a human rights crisis as a result of public outrage and concern. In order to encourage childbirth, the Dutch government gives young couples subsidies for childcare. However, because of the large number of children born to immigrants, the collective fraudulent claims of immigrants, and racial discrimination, the tax authorities often make it difficult for applications with names that do not appear to be local, and even smear these immigrants' families, claiming back the subsidy by a deadline. Many people are unable to raise so much money overnight that their homes, cars, furniture, bank deposits, and salaries are taken directly by the government to pay off debts. And some tax officials even chase them to their companies and make them lose their job. One single mother, Tavares, who raised 3 children, was accused of fraud and had to pay back 125,000 euros for childcare subsidy, leaving her with a huge debt overnight. She and her children often went to bed hungry, mentally and physically devastated, and her youngest daughter even wanted to commit suicide. The nation was shocked by these heinous crimes, which left no room for the people to survive. The first case to be revealed to the public was that of the childcare agency Datum, which was accused of facilitating fraud. Although the judge ruled in 2012 that no fraud had been found, in October of the following year, the Dutch tax authorities still named Datum as a suspect agency, and in November investigated 16 nannies without finding any evidence of fraud. Surprisingly enough, a year and a half later, the Dutch tax authorities still charged 317 of Datum's clients in April 2014. There are numerous ways in which the tax authorities have maliciously treated immigrant families, and even minor mistakes caused by lack of language proficiency, such as missing a signature or failing to report a change in income, can be grounds for disqualification or even withdrawal of childcare benefits. Sadly, because of this, more than 1,000 children have been forced to leave their parents and sent to social welfare agencies. The scandal came to public attention in September 2018, and finally at the end of 2020, the Ministry of Finance announced 500 million euros in compensation for nearly 20,000 parents. Before the 2021 elections, Dutch Prime Minister Rutte admitted his mistake and led his cabinet to resign. Although the public's outrage has subsided for the time being, many victims continue to press criminal charges against the offending officers in the hope of receiving justice. If government officials use tax as a means of discrimination, they will eventually set themselves on fire.
Thank you. That was very interesting. And I now want to know a lot more about the Dutch tax case. We're going to hear from several of the Diese, starting with Ms. Judy Lee, who's a small business owner in the LA area. She's a Taijimen Diese, so please go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and good evening, and thank you, Dr. Folk, Dr. Ntovine, for being here. As mentioned, a small business owner now and also a Taizhimen Dizin. I feel very honored to be a part of this forum today. And today is August 8th, and it happens to be Father's Day in Taiwan because the number 8 in Mandarin is Ba, and it sounds very similar to father. And so we consider this day as a Father's Day. We celebrate it. So on this special day, I'd like to wish my dad, my shifu, and all the father figures in my life a happy Father's Day. And on this special day, we talk about the Taizhimen case. It's very important, and I think it makes me also very emotional. And because both my dad and my shifu play very special roles and have a very special place in my heart. And it is also because of them that I have the courage and I'm eager to share my personal experience and speak the truth today. My dad is a CPA, and he told me before that since he became a Taizhimen Dizi, he's learned from our shifu the importance of doing the right thing in life and that we should always abide by our conscience. These values have become a special guide for him to do the right thing in his career, and he aids his customers to be good citizens and abide by Taiwan's tax-paying laws. Our shifu encouraged the youth to be brave and do what is right, and that studying is our opportunity to learn how to be a good person and also to think positively in life. And so growing up with such motivating and supporting role models has made me feel loved and my soul to be full at all times. And as a business owner now, I'm often faced with decisions of the cheaper route or the easier route, as opposed to perhaps a little bit more money, more troublesome work. And as I'm faced with each task or challenge, difficulty, my shifu's guidance and my dad's examples have been the biggest encouragement and motivation for me to be fearless of the troubles in ahead and do the right thing. And as a result, I feel I have created many great relationships with our customers and also peace of mind. And the accumulation of these positive energy has given me the courage to speak up for Taizhimen and also put in my efforts to uphold justice in the world. And we spoke of the Youth Day approaching. As I reflect on my experience growing up, I feel very, very extremely grateful of my shifu, shimu, and the brothers and sisters who fought hard for the rectification of the Taizhimen case while allowing us, the younger generation, to grow up in an environment that is full of love. We were never taught to hate the injustice that Taizhimen suffered, but to fight harder for justice everywhere. And other than fighting the injustice, Shifu never ceased to lead all of us, the Dizi, to continue to travel the world and spread the seeds of love and peace. And I remember hearing the very inspiring story of how President of the Dominican Republic, Mr. Leonel Fernandez, had put his commitment to peace into action. President Fernandez rang the bell of world peace and love in 2005, and he wished that people from all over the world can understand each other and that the love and peace can prevail. Later on, we all saw on the news that President Fernandez invited the presidents of Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela to make peace. And he said during the meeting at the time, quote, "What all of us would like is for this meeting to end with a hug, a handshake," end quote. The brothers and sisters of Taizhimen shared with us a loving and honorable moment they experienced as Mrs. Hong, Vice President of FOPAL, on Dr. Hong's behalf, presented the World Cultural Peace Award and medal to President Fernandez for his peace initiative. I felt inspired to also partake in the effort to change the world with my love and abilities. So when the opportunity came up, I signed up to attend my first United Nations event for the 5th Annual Youth Assembly at the United Nations in New York in 2008. I remember our shifu encouraged the youth to be prepared at all times, and he said this to us: "You may need to stand up and take the lead at any moment. The youth have to maintain good energies and exert positive influences. This is the radiation of inner confidence, courage, and potential, not vain showmanship." And while I was there, I got to meet students from all over the world. I got to hear their stories, and I got to share my stories too at the United Nations. And even to this day, our shifu continues to encourage us to use our love, our conscience, and guide us to do good things for the world. A month after the youth assembly, I headed to Paris with the brothers and sisters in Taijimen and our Shimu, Mrs. Hong, to attend the 61st annual UNDPI NGO conference, which celebrated the 60th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I remember many were there to voice their concerns for human rights violations, in hopes that drawing attention to their cases along with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, there would be peaceful solutions to persecutions and negligence of respect and human rights. These two conferences that I ever attended in my life summarizes the two emotions of love and of sadness that I have experienced over the years, spreading love and peace around the world with Shifu, Shimu, and Taijimen, and through cultural exchanges. On the other hand, to protest along with the brothers and sisters in Taiwan for the injustice of the Taijimen case. I was only 20 years old when I attended my first international conference. I am now 34, and within the 14 years, I have seen at many United Nations and international conferences human rights issues, religious persecutions, and hindrance of freedom of beliefs. Now that I'm older and I understand the Taijimen case even more, it's hard to take in that Taijimen is one of the cases, one of the stories that I heard about at these international conferences. I became a Taijimen Dizi in April 1996, and only after 8 months, the Taijimen was persecuted because of the illegal acts conducted by a few rogue bureaucrats. However, I will never forget the day our Shifu was taken by the prosecutors. It was December 19th, 1996. I was only 9, and I saw that he did not hide from the media, from the cameras. I saw that he faced each person with respect. And I saw that he looked into the Dizi's eyes with love, trying to console us that everything is going to be okay. Of course, I was too young to understand what was happening, but I knew from what I saw and what I experienced that Taijimen, that my Shifu was innocent. My feelings were proven correct on July 13, 2007, when the Supreme Court of Taiwan found Taijimen not guilty of fraud, tax evasion, or violation of tax codes. And my feelings were once again proven correct when our Shifu, Shimu, and Dizi, who were illegally detained, received national compensation for the wrongful imprisonment. However, my feelings are still unsettled today because the byproduct of the Taijimen case remains as the Taxation Bureau continued to issue unjustified tax bills to Taijimen based on the original indictment without any proper review. The case was further wrongfully transferred to the Administrative Enforcement Agency. Taijimen's land and assets have been illegally seized in auction. I am baffled by the fact that even as the Control Yuan indicated in 2009 that the National Taxation Bureau had 7 major violations of the law in dealing with the Taijimen case, but the Taxation Bureau is able to continue acting on a mistake recognized by the Control Yuan. The flaws include irresponsible assessment without detailed investigation, erroneous assessment of overstate tax due, and unscrupulous recording of favorable questionnaire results for the taxpayer. It is evident that the tax bills were illegitimate since the beginning and should not have ever been allowed to be processed. Taijimen's Shifu, Shimu, and all of us Dizi have been waiting for the Taiwanese government to prove our innocence once and for all. We've been waiting for 26 years. We will not compromise, though, because we want to stand with the truth. There are many individuals and organizations throughout Taiwan that may have suffered unfair taxation and belief in religious persecution. And while the Taijimen case may seem like one specific case, it is actually a common method used by the government to persecute through taxation and suppress the freedom of belief. We have seen it throughout history too. So it is crucial that we learn about all these cases and speak up of the persecutions. These mistakes and persecution means can cause unease in people's lives and harmony and break the harmony and stability of the world. So it is crucial that we learn about the cases and speak up of the persecutions. I'm grateful to have many opportunities to attend these international United Nations meetings or different conferences around the world with my Shifu, Shimu, and Taijimen. And now with all these experiences at heart, I am even more empowered to speak up, not only for Taijimen's justice, but in hopes that more people around the world can be protected and be safe from the horrible persecutions. I would like to end by quoting Dale Carnegie, who said, "Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying, even when there seemed to be no hope at all." United, together, I believe we can achieve great things and embrace hope not far from now. Let us continue our venture to protect human rights and the freedom of religion and belief. And I sincerely wish by Father's Day next year that we would simply have to prepare for a celebration of our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. That was great, really great. We're going to hear from several more Jisa, including Miss Perry Chen. I don't know if this is a video. Your email is your name tags like that. Please go ahead. You're a nurse and you're in what town? In what city? In Los Angeles? No. In Taiwan. Nurse in Taiwan. Excellent.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Perry Chen. When I first joined Taijimen, I only thought of improving and changing myself, but I didn't think that Taijimen would teach me more things that I hadn't learned in school and at work, such as promoting goodness, stopping evil, and living the world. It wasn't hard to go from not knowing anything about Taijimen to knowing more about Taijimen. Just like Sifu said, when the opportunity to do good deeds comes, take it. Now I understand that I should love myself and benefit all sentient beings. I try my best to take every opportunity to do good deeds because I believe that although I'm only a small force for good, as long as I'm willing to do it, one day, small drip of water will become river, and river will become the sea, and the world will definitely be changed. It is a lifelong lesson to learn how to keep myself safe from the chaotic society and the dangerous environment. I learned in Taijimen not only to cultivate myself, but also try to be friendly with each other and not hurt others and myself. After all, conscience, love, and peace do not distinguish between countries, races, classes, or even you and me. It has been a year since I arrived in the United States, but I have to not only adapt to the unfamiliar environment, the language, the role of a newlywed, but I also plan for the future and improve my English and so on. At the beginning, I was confused because I had to do this and that. And I remember my sifu said that the one who can manage his time has the most time, and the one can learn to control his time is a winner afterward. Just take it slowly. So I slowed down my pace and tried to manage my time wisely. At the same time, I learned to think positively and realize everything is for the best. During this time, I was fortunate to be able to participate in my first trip to Hawaii with Taijimen brothers and sisters to present our case. Along the way, I saw more than just the beauty of Hawaii, and I didn't want to express my demand for a redress of Taijimen bad case, but also to promote love and peace and the culture of conscience with Shifu brothers and sisters. For the moment, I stepped into the National Cemetery of Pacific. My heart was not only sad, but also saddened. I thought to myself that if people had applied love and peace and the movement of conscience, there would not have been so many innocent victims. This is the reason why Shifu and Shimu has been taking their deeds to different places to promote love and peace. Shifu has led his deeds to promote conscience and to make the world understand the importance of peace. and has invited head of state and leader for the all walks of life to use their influence to pray the blessing of the world. A few days ago, I heard an 8-year-old sister share with me that Sifu reminded us the only things remain the same is the things changing all the time. As long as I'm always prepared, why should I be afraid of change? Taiwan's judicial system is like a dramatic development of TV drama, like a Korean drama with twists and turns, which is actually playing our society. But I never thought that the kind of corruption that only allow government officials who are greedy for illegal bonus and disregard the human rights to save fire, but not only the people to light them is also being played out in Taiwan. The so-called democratic country where I live, former President Wang Yunzhou said that 9 out of 10 violations of human rights come from the government. The Taijimen injustice case is a cool example of the mechanism of the state's authoritarian bureaucrats and their violation of human rights. The collective indifference of the citizens will only increase our arrogance and prejudice of the bureaucrats. On the contrary, the collective voice of a citizen will creating a counterbalance force that will eliminate the force of darkness. Although Taiwan claims to be a country of democracy and rule of law, for a long time, the rulers have never given the people real democracy. They have even manipulated the media to misrepresent to social movements, given negative comments, such as creating social resentment and demanding too much. So the people who went on to the street to fight for democracy, misleading the public. I hope the Taiwanese government will be brave enough to admit his mistakes and that those in power will implement human rights protection and make proper law to amend the taxation and enforcement bonus system that have caused chaos and implement a public system for public officials who abuse their power and misuse people's tax money so that the people of Taiwan can live with dignity, a positive environment, instead of living under a false mask of democracy. Thank you.
Our third presenter is Sarah Ng, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. Ever since I was young, I was very curious about Qigong. So when I found out that Taijimen Qigong Academy was so close to my house, I took the opportunity to join, hoping to improve my health. Especially at that time, I was suffering from shoulder pain. I wasn't able to lift up my right arm for more than 3 months. Even after going to massage weekly, there's not much improvement. Surprisingly, after I practiced Qigong for 1 month, one day I was able to lift up my arm. I think Taijimen Qigong Academy is a place that is full of positive energy. It makes people feel relaxed and calm. Brothers and sisters at Taijimen treat each other like family, supporting and encouraging each other. After joining Taijimen Qigong Academy, I learned how to breathe correctly. I also learned to think from different perspectives, let go of negative thought, and balance my life through Shifu's guidance. After practicing Qigong, both my health and my sleep improved. Before practicing Qigong, I have vivid dream every night. I woke up remembering my dream and felt like I didn't sleep. After practicing Qigong for a while, these dreams gradually disappear. Also, before practicing Qigong, I was very anxious. I would get upset over very little things. I remember that I would get upset for a whole day just because of a cue point. But now, even with bigger difficulty, I would be able to think from a different perspective and get upset for only a short time. Due to my anxiety, I used to plan a lot. I had to plan for everything to feel secure and plan ahead for a year or two. I was constantly thinking about what I need to do next and wasn't able to enjoy the present. Now I only plan for a couple of days or for the special events. I try to go with the flow and live in the moment. Especially after the pandemic, many people were nervous because of the change and unforeseen future. But I was able to go with the flow. After the pandemic, I continued working part-time. I also started studying traditional Chinese medicine with 3 kids at home. It's been 2.5 years since I went back to school. There's a lot of things that I need to make change to accommodate. But by practicing Qigong, it gave me positive energy to keep moving forward. Over the years, Shifu had led brothers and sisters to different countries to promote love and peace every year. Shifu led his teachers to promote conscience and its importance for world peace. He invited leaders all around the world to do positive deeds for the world. During the pandemic, Shifu also led his teachers to promote the preventive measure. For health and well-being, 3 don'ts, 5 do's, and 6 tips. The 3 don'ts are don't lose your temper, don't worry, and don't be anxious. The 5 do's are wash your hands frequently, drink more warm water, do more exercise, be happy, and be more careful. These are great tips for people around the world to avoid getting sick and have peace of mind. 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to New York with Shifu for the first time, attending the World Summit of Love and Peace at the United Nations. When I saw Shifu promote conscience to UN ambassadors from various countries at the United Nations and the subsequent cultural exchange events for world peace, that made me realize what Shifu did was very meaningful and important. Shifu not only taught us to be physically and mentally healthy, but also taught us to help those around us. On September 11 last year, I once again had the opportunity to join memorable events to promote love and peace with my brother and sister, as well as my 12-year-old son. In New York and Washington, D.C., I could feel and understand why 20 years ago, after the terrorist attack in New York, Shifu brothers and sisters still choose to stay to invite United Nations ambassadors and NGO leaders to ring the bell to pray for blessings and to calm the heart of people in New York. They also kept the promise to hold the bell ringing ceremony in Hawaii. I realized that promoting conscious love and peace is the mission of Taijimen Dizi. Taijimen is such a good place, but in the past 25 years, this community's human rights and freedom of belief have been violated by the Taiwanese government. Living in the United States, I can understand why the prosecutor in Taiwan released false information without evidence. What's even more concerning and unreasonable is that the Supreme Court has found Taijimen not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. However, the National Taxation Bureau in Taiwan still ignored the Supreme Court's decision and continue to issue unlawful tax bill to Taijimen, illegally seized our property and confiscated our sacred land, intended for our South Cultivation Center. Hans Luth, president of Gerard Luth Foundation for Freedom of Religion or Belief, criticized the lack of accountability in the case. It sends the message to the public that the National Tax Office can get away with impunity, and it is above the law rather than a servant of the law and the people. Another message is that religious freedom and freedom of expression is all relative in Taiwan. Taiwan's National Taxation Bureau has more power than the ordinary administrative agency should have, has violated our human rights with unlawful taxation, endangered people's personal freedom, taken away their property rights and human rights so that victims cannot get the justice they deserve. This is a crisis in a democratic country. A Taiwanese legislator, Xu Xingzhe, pointed out that this case has undermined 5 branches of the government as well as the foundation of Taiwan's public hearings on the abuse of public power and unlawful taxation in the Taijimen case. I hope that the Taiwanese government will rectify the Taijimen case and make Taiwan a truly free, democratic country where human rights prevail. Thank you.
Our fourth teaser presenter is Mr. Alan Shu, so please go ahead.
Hello, moderator, panelists, and online guests. I have the honor to participate in this forum today to share the Gongfu I have learned at the Taijimen, as well as my thoughts on the Taijimen case, which has been persecuted by the government for 26 years. When I was in college, I joined Taijimen. Before joining Taijimen, I was just like any other college student. I was so engrossed in club activities. So I only went home once a semester. But after I joined Taijimen, I went home every week to practice in Taijimen Qigong Academy. My mother joked that it was like she found a lost kid. Sifu said the purpose of going to school and learning is to learn how to make right decisions and good deeds, and do good deeds. So Sifu told us that let's treat the various levels we encountered in our life as we will play games, breaking the levels and spending each day with a joyful and happy heart. So I practice with our Sifu with no worries but full of joyfulness. Furthermore, Sifu emphasized that through practice, cultivation, and enlightenment, he wants every deed of the Taijimen to be a practitioner to learn the highest Gongfu of his words and minds, mirroring with his true heart, and to be a good citizen who can stand tall in the universe. He reminds us to reflect our doings in daily basis. We should think how to improve on the mistake we had, but let go after we find the solution. On the other hand, we should encourage ourselves where we have done well. I was a person who immersed in the mistake I made and spent a lot of time in regrets and not let myself go. Because of my Sifu's word, I have learned to look forward and stop dwelling on the past, which has made my life a lot easier. When I was studying, the 4 words, propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame, could be found everywhere on campus. where in the auditorium, on the flag raising ceremony stage, or in classroom, as well as in textbook. Propriety is a well-behaved attitude. Righteousness is right and proper behavior. Integrity is the discrimination of right and wrong. And shame is earnest awareness. It is also emphasized that the four disciplines of the countries are propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. If the four disciplines are not practiced or advocated, the country will perish. The teacher underlined to me the importance of memorizing these four words. I remember it, but I didn't fully comprehend it, what it had to do with my life. My Sifu also taught me these four words when I joined Taizhimen. Through daily self-reflection, I have different experiences and practice of these four words. For example, I have courage to admit my mistakes, regardless in life or at work. I also find this has an advantage. Before things go worse, I have the opportunity to correct it and avoid telling more lies to cover up my wrongdoings in order to run up a lie. In addition to living more freely, I can face people and things around me very calmly. July 28 to 30 this year, I attended International Religious Freedom IIF Summit 2022, held in Washington, D.C., to tell the international communities about the 26-year persecution of Taizhimen by few rogue bureaucrats in Taiwan, and to seek international help. When we presented our case to the co-chair of the summit, Dr. Katrina, she immediately understood our situation and encouraged us to continue working for justice by indicating that the United States is not perfect and needs collectively efforts from American people to make the country better. July 28th, I returned to Washington, D.C. to speak with California Congresswoman Anna Espu about Taizhimen's culture of promoting love and peace in the world, as well as the 26-year persecution of Taizhimen case. Congresswoman Anna's office, Commissioner Andrew Cohen, received us. After we stated the real reasons for seeking international assistance is to help Taiwan become better. After hearing what we had said, Andrew agreed immediately, saying, yes, it's like the United States is not perfect. Everyone is still needed to help make America a better place. Dr. Katrina and Andrew are at the top of the United States. Their ability to say the phrase of the United States is not perfect represents their open-mindedness and the temperament, which is also an indispensable factor for the United States to maintain its global leadership. In contrast, too many Taiwanese government officials has refused to acknowledge the errors done by few rogue bureaucrats in the more than 25 years old Taizhimen case, covering their eyes to allow these wrongdoings to continue. The wrong policies are more terrible than corruption, so Taiwan has fallen from the head of the four Asian tigers to the bottom. The Supreme Court ruled in 2007 that Taizhimen was not guilty of owed no tax and had not violated the Tax Collection Act. The Control Yuan's investigation report from 2002 stated that the prosecutor Ho Kwan-ren committed 8 major violations in handling the Taizhimen case, and the NTB committed 7 major deficiencies. The Taizhimen case is listed as a major human rights protection indicator case, but no high-level government officials has stood up to resolve the unjust Taizhimen case. which has been ongoing for 26 years. There's no righteousness here. Although the NTB publicly admitted in 2012 that Taijimen was not a crime school, it continued to issue illegal tax bills and even illegally auction off Taijimen's land for self-cultivation in August 2020. It is a shame. Former Finance Minister Zhang Shenghe publicly stated in response to former legislator Xu Tianzhe's questions that a low salary is insufficient to maintain integrity. Is Taiwan already at this juncture? There's no integrity. During public hearing held by the Finance Committee of the Legislative Yuan in 2010, Taijimen Dizi provided testimony and evidence to the committee members and the financial officials present. Many officials in the meeting close their eyes and appear arrogant. It's impolite. According to the Muming chapter of Guanzi, an ancient Chinese political and philosophical book, if people do not go beyond the norm, the monarch will be stable. If you do not go too far, the people will be free of deceit. If you do not cover up evil, you will have noble character. If you do not do evil things, you will naturally put an end to unscrupulous acts. 20 years ago, when Taiwan held its first presidential election after martial law, Taiwan moved from authoritarian to democracy and earned the title of Beacon of Democracy in Asia. However, the path to happiness for Taiwanese people has been cut off because of the government's inability to not cover up the evil or not do evil things. Despite the Supreme Court's decision and Control Yuan's investigation reports, officials continue to cover up one another and allow illegal officials to do evil things. There is much chaos in our society now. Therefore, I'm called upon President Tsai Ing-wen, using Guanzi's word, please severely punish the few rogue officials who are disrespectful, unjust, shameless, and dishonest for the sake of the country's foundation and sustainable development. Finally, I'd like to share some of the content from Ms. Noemi's speech. She was invited to speak at IRF Summit 2020 on behalf of the United States Holocaust Memorial Simon Skate Center for the Prevention of Genocide. We know that prevention is possible. She emphasized that the early engagement to respond to emerging signs is a cost-effective alternative to waiting until mass atrocities has started. She stated it is the silent individuals who cause the most harm to the victims, not perpetrators. I have encountered with many victims while participating in redressing unjust Taijimen case. And I am deeply aware that Taiwan is persecuting the kind-hearted people through legal and taxation means. As a result, I would like to use Ms. Noemi's words to call on Taiwanese people. My dear compatriots, you may be fortunate. You have not been persecuted by any government thus far, but this does not guarantee that you will not be in the future. So in order to avoid experiencing similar pain in the future, and in order to help our next generation live freely and fearlessly, please join us in speaking out, supporting action analysis to redress 1219, upholding justice, fighting injustice, and fulfill our citizens' duties for the beautiful future of Taiwan. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alan. Our final Nizu who's going to give a presentation is Brian Kung, please.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Brian Kung. I'm a teacher, disciple of Taiji Man Qigong Academy. I want to share my thought and feeling about the Taiji Man case in Taiwan. I joined Taiji Man in 2010 and learned traditional Qigong martial art. First of all, I practice Taiji Man Qigong for my physical health. Taiji Man Master Dr. Hong is teaching us to improve an individual physical and mental health. He passes down Taiji culture and wisdom to every teacher. Dr. Hong also teach us to be a good world citizen and do good deed if we have any chances in daily life. I learned valuable Taiji culture and wisdom from Taiji Man. Practicing Taiji Man make me calm and alleviate my anger temper whenever I encounter bad things in my life, daily life. Taiji Man promote love, peace, and conscious movement globally. I learned Taiji wisdom to balance between family members and apply it in my life. Dr. Hong teach his teachers to discern the true and false, the good and bad, and the right and wrong. Master teach us to be a good person and based on our own conscience and integrity whenever we do everything. Taiji Man is a decent organization and does good deeds globally, but Taiwan's district attorney, Ho Kuan Len, makes up fake evidence to prosecute Taiji Man in 1996. The district attorney used raising goblin to prosecute Taiji Man without scientific evidence. His evidence is based on the shadows of Dr. Hong's eyes when he is interrogated. It is nonsense and lacks the scientific evidence. The Taiwan district attorney can prosecute based on an individual eye's shadow. It makes a Taiwan citizen never have a normal life. Later on, he asked a rental tax collector to make up fake evidence to prosecute Taiji Man. Many years later, the tax collector confesses to the media that he did fake evidence, but District Attorney Ho Kuan Len. It is very obvious. The district attorney prosecuted Taiji Man without evidence. This is an illegal prosecution of Taiji Man based on without evidence of crime. We provided a lot of evidence to court and fight for our organization rights and all of the teachers. We go through the rules of law process to fight the illegal prosecution. Finally, the Supreme Court judges Taiji Man not guilty and no tax evasion, but it did not end yet because Taiwan's Internal Revenue Service and Executive Branch Administration Executive Office auctions Taiji Man's sacred land in 2020. The sacred land became state-owned after more than 2 bids. The district attorney, Internal Revenue Service, and Administration Executive Office neglect the judicial judgment and ombudsman branch judgment too. It is very obvious that Taiwan does not have rules of law. I need to fight for my rights and Taiji Man rights because I am a Taiji Man teacher. Moreover, we found many victims in Taiwan by the Internal Revenue Service and district attorney when we were fighting for our human rights in court. I am here to speak up and seek help from international human rights scholars and groups to fight for human rights and freedoms of religion. We need to fight for justice, human rights, and freedoms of religions. The corrupted district attorney and internal revenue service without rules of law in Taiwan. The Taijimen case is an example of persecuting human rights and freedoms of religion. I appreciate that many scholars from all over the world support Taijimen and fight for justice, human rights, and freedoms of religion. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to, is it still working? Can you hear me? Thank you to all the DISA. I've been asked to make some summary concluding comments, and I've been thinking about how to knit together all the different speeches today around the issue of youth. And so let me say, first of all, I am a parent. I have two daughters who are 21 and 31. And I'm also a teacher of college students. And my hypothesis about teaching is you really need to like the age cohort you're working with. And I really admire middle school teachers because I don't know how I would ever teach middle schoolers. I have college students, which is at an interesting juncture in terms of thinking about religion and spirituality and moral development. Massimo's comments today started this webinar. He was talking about the millennials and the Zoomers and the phenomena of these younger generations leaving religion and maybe coming back and maybe not coming back. And I work with young people every single day, and I am very aware of the fact that there is a large portion of young people who are angry at religion, who see religion as a retrograde, negative force in society, who really believe that the world will be better without religion. And I tell them, look, we know from communist countries in Eastern Europe what happens when you eliminate religion from society and you don't bring in more tolerance, you bring in more enemy. And, I think about the Zoomers and the millennials who are said to be leaving religion. And what I find is a great deal of young people are actually very hungry for spirituality. Marco today was talking about the notion of stolen youth. I know that that is the theme of the conference, and we talk about that in the context of the great uncertainty that several generations of Taijimen practitioners have suffered through now. But I also think stolen youth is a concept that we can apply to the type of cultural loss that young people around the world are facing in an over-mechanized, over-industrialized mass society where there's inadequate human contact. Willie mentioned the notion of transmission of knowledge being something that connects generations, and that's something also which I think young people around the world are very hungry for. And so my sense as I'm listening to these commenters is I can appreciate how for the DISA, Taijimen answers that kind of need which reverberates through many, many youth. Stephen Inada was speaking very interestingly about cultural preservation as something that's very important in terms of feeding people's senses of self. And he compared that to the problem of state actors suppressing rights and also suppressing human expression. The religion and cultural awareness of Taijimen is something very important for human development and human being in a way that's very in keeping with what he observed. Turning over to the DISA, Judy, you used a word, I don't know where she is now, that was so sort of useful and powerful for this webinar. You talked about empowerment, and I also love the fact that you quoted Dale Carnegie. I thought that was really fun. But the notion of empowerment being something that gives people agency, gives people possibility in their life. Empowerment as somebody, for me, as somebody who thinks a little bit in terms of philosophy, I think is an interesting word and an interesting concept because power is a little bit different from freedom. Empowerment encompasses a certain type of human freedom, but it also encompasses a certain type of agency. So in philosophy, sometimes we take the words of a philosopher named Alistair MacIntyre. He was an ethicist, and he would talk about the difference between freedom from and power to. And this is something I see in terms of young people at the juncture of adulthood. Young people, they start off, they want to leave religion, they want to leave the authority of their parents because they want to be free in the sense of I want to do whatever I want. And I remember when I was in college myself, I was 20 years old. I woke up one morning, I was like, I don't know how to do anything. I can't do anything. I think the only thing I learned how to do that quarter was make a very good apple pie. But that notion of needing to actually express yourself through trial and error, through making mistakes, through practicing skills until you actually feel comfortable and they feel very natural. These are the types of human development that a Menpai can deliver or inculcate or provide for the young people and also for the older adults who become part of the community. Perry, you talked about the importance of loving the world and how that was something that Taiji Men brought to you. And you also made a comment about the collective indifference that we sometimes see in the world and the need for collective conscience. And so in that sense, I can understand how the notion of empowerment starts off as an individual item, but then becomes something where you actually have the ability to affect your community and the world outside of you. Sarah commented extremely eloquently on how Taiji Men Qigong had helped her life physically and emotionally. I've heard through the past few days many, many stories of how Taiji Men has helped people, but I really thought that your comments were very, very excellent in terms of summarizing and speaking for a whole community of people. Alan, I really enjoyed what you said. You said that your mother joked that she found a lost kid. And that really sort of said to me again, this is what we find with young adults where they're sort of lost and they're looking for something and seeking to be found. Perry, then when you came on, you said something else that was important. You talked about courage and you also talked about the need to be able to make mistakes. And I think that that's extremely important. To be able to grow includes making mistakes and practicing and making mistakes in a supportive environment where making mistakes is okay. And Brian spoke about the need for, now I can't even read my writing, for Taiji Men citizens to have normal lives, to have lives that are free from harassment and free from uncertainty. This is very much in the keeping of the legal context of the Taiji Men case, but it is also a necessary condition for human development. If you're afraid, if you're anxious, you cannot grow. And so it was with those comments from Brian that this notion of stolen youth came back to me with new meaning, to say that as long as this is sort of open loop in terms of the tax case, as long as it is unresolved, that means we have generation after generation of young people coming up who don't have the type of certainty for worldview that they very much need in order to progress and become full functioning adults. So these were just sort of my observations. Yesterday, we had a conference at ASR where I felt that the speakers came together very, very well, and we talked on a kind of common theme. And I would like to congratulate and thank all of the presenters for being able to do something so excellent and coherent right here. Thank you very much for your attention and time. We do have one concluding video, which is called Justice, Human Rights, and Freedom of Belief. So I guess we can play that now.
Taiji Men Shifu and Dizzy have been promoting a culture of love, peace, and conscience, conducting citizen diplomacy, and forging international friendships. They have been highly praised by the incumbent and 3 former presidents of Taiwan as well as leaders in all circles.
For the past 35 years since its founding, your esteemed organization has upheld its objectives of loyalty, filial piety, love of the country, and love of society, uniting like-minded people to promote martial arts, traditional culture, and good social values. It's admirable.
Taijimen is an ancient Menpai of Qigong and martial arts, passed down from generation to generation. It's like a big warm family. All Dizi are energetic and healthy physically and mentally. Under Zhang Menren's leadership, the Dizi not only practice self-cultivation, but also spread kindness to help the world. Through international culture exchanges, they foster love for the world, promoting the idea of love and peace worldwide. On behalf of the government, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my utmost respect and gratitude to you once again. Thank you for your long-term efforts and contributions to our country and society.
Every time we see Taijimen, we see energy, warmth, and love. We all admire Dr. Hong's compassion and would like to see Taijimen practice this worldwide. Let Taiwan stand out and let the world come in.
Under the Zhang Menren's leadership, Taijimen has actively participated in international events, conducted citizen diplomacy, and raised Taiwan's global visibility. In the future, I also hope that Taijimen under Dr. Hong's leadership will continue to work with the government. Let us use our positive influence and move Taiwan forward with continued progress. Let the world see Taiwan.
Taijimen is a Menpai of Qigong and martial arts. It's a place for self-betterment and Qigong practice with a focus on teaching loyalty and filial piety.
Taijimen Dizi, you've been contributing your money and efforts with the idea of love and peace, as well as your excellent civil and martial arts. You've created a peaceful and very happy place in the world.
I would like to thank the organizer, Taijimen Qigong Academy, again for its efforts over the years.
I think it is wonderful that Taijimen is able to work with our health department to host this event, New Health Concepts, Total Mobilization Against the SARS.
Be kind, do good deeds, speak kind words. As Taijimen just said, an era of conscience has come.
If we all follow our conscience in everything we do, and the collective power of kindness will definitely improve ourselves, society, and the nation.
I'm very grateful for Taijimen's work in civilian diplomacy. Taijimen has always been committed to public welfare. I want to thank you for coming here and adding vitality to the program. This is Taijimen's spirit.
Through this method, we are displaying our traditional culture, sports, and arts in a different way. I think it's very, very good. It's very helpful for us in the international community.
On behalf of the government, I came to present a certificate of recognition to the Zhang Menren of Taijimen, Dr. Hong Daozi, for actively participating in international affairs, promoting martial art activities, projecting Taiwan onto the whole world over the years, and especially for enhancing Taiwan's image.
Taijimen itself is the best example, in particular after their performances during the Sydney Olympics. For many people around the world, when they think of Taiwan, they think of Taijimen.
At the invitation of the city of Seattle, Taijimen participated in the Seafair in Seattle. The top 10 festivals in the United States. Taijimen's tradition is to strengthen the body, cultivate the heart and moral character through Chinese martial arts, and truly demonstrate the profoundity of Chinese culture.
Under the leadership of Dr. Hong Daozi, Taijimen is spreading a message of love and peace not only to Taiwan, but also to the world, so that we can hear a refreshing voice amid the chaos in the world.
Under the leadership of Dr. Hong, Taijimen, an ancient Menpai of martial arts, won the group champion in the 8th World Cup International Martial Arts Championships in 2001, including Qigong, Chinese internal boxing, Chinese external boxing, and weapon.
Taijimen's performance was more than strength and beauty. I was very touched by their facial expressions. What they demonstrated was not merely Qigong. It was something from the heart, the message of harmony, love, peace, friendship, and love of the world.
Taijimen has not only performed domestically, but also done a lot to promote citizen diplomacy. I greatly admire Taijimen and would like to express our gratitude once more.
Taijimen is the biggest Menpai in Taiwan that promotes loyalty, filial piety, benevolence, and love, and teaches righteousness and kindness. I want to thank them for bringing powerful, positive energy, good vibes to our school.
We are carrying forward this excellent and enduring culture and hope that we can promote the spirit of our infantry through today's combat drill, arts, and cultural activities.
Taijimen's activities are very meaningful for both the military and civilians.
There's a saying that humans are born good. We were all good by nature originally. However, we might form bad habits and get bad influence during our life journeys. We need Taijimen to promote the awakening of conscience.
Wow, I finally saw Taijimen's performance in person. I think this is the best performance I have ever seen. I have seen a lot of performances and I was amazed by this powerful presentation.
I believe, as the president of the school, I should apply this hard-working spirit to spread universal love and guide my students to cultivate this idea, to protect our national dignity, as well as the well-being and property of our fellow countrymen.
Taijimen cultivates its younger generations by promoting the spirit of universal love. This is very good, allowing Taijimen's universal love to continue throughout generations and prevail in the world.
During a political purge that began in 1996, a prosecutor abused his power to persecute Taijimen Shifu and Dizzy. Through legal and taxation measures, rogue bureaucrats violated Taijimen Shifu's and Dizzy's human rights and freedom of belief.
In 1996, when the government conducted a political purge and a crackdown on unlawful religious activities, poison pen letters were sent to the government and Taijimen was caught in the crossfire. After 3 criminal trials spanning 10 years and 3 months, the Supreme Court's decision in 2007 confirmed that Taijimen was not guilty of fraud, tax evasion, or violation of Tax Collection Act, clearing Taijimen's name.
I saw a streak of shadow in his eyes. Based on my experience of handling cases, my instinct told me he might be raising goblins.
If a prosecutor can decide whether to prosecute you or not, only based on the look in your eyes, never will there be a day of peace in Taiwan.
The Taijimen case is straightforward. In 2002, when Control Yuan issued the investigation report, we thought Ministry of Justice would take action, but nothing happened. They all cover up each other.
In 2002, the Control Yuan investigated the mistakes of prosecutor Hu Quanzhen in investigating the Taijimen case, and the 8 major crimes were written here in black and white. The Control Yuan is asking you to punish such a blatantly illegal act and you are still bending over backwards to defend him.
The case was heard by over 80 judges, and in the end, Taijimen won the case. Surprisingly, the Taxation Bureau insisted on seizing the property through the Administrative Enforcement Agency of the Ministry of Justice. This resulted from the prosecutor's abuse of power and unlawful prosecution.
All the tax information provided by the prosecutor was fake. Right, it was all fake.
It is not due process to accuse a human being in a civilized society of raising goblins. The mere statement of that would cause individuals and should cause individuals to question the sanity of the prosecutor. And in any court of law, such an absurd allegation would be thrown out.
The Taijimen case is neither a tax case nor a case about the judiciary because it is, in fact, a purge, a political purge.
The Taijimen incident is a typical February 28th incident.
The Taijimen case is like a mirror that completely reflects the problems of the judicial system in Taiwan, as well as the severe problems in taxation.
To clarify, the court rulings in the first, second, and third trials indicate that this is a gift, so you should not interpret it as a cram school tuition.
This case is mainly about the fact that they believe these were monetary gifts for their shifu. After 3 trials, the Supreme Court has made its decision. We, as judges, elaborated on the reason why the indictment is not reliable. If the tax agency quoted this indictment as the basis for taxation, I think it is outrageous.
For the facts confirmed in a criminal court's ruling, the administrative agency have no reason not to adopt them.
In 2011, I told the finance minister that this case should be closed. But he didn't attempt to resolve the matter the way he would with his own business. After all, he already got his bonus, and the tax is imposed on someone else anyway.
The Taijimen tax case was initiated by you. It has dragged on for 18 years and hasn't settled yet. Why is that? If the Tax Bureau were right, if the Ministry of Finance were right, why would it end after 18 years?
I would like to report to you that
if the Taxation Bureau is wrong, then you should quickly terminate the case. One time, in order to enforce a compulsory execution, a released official document was clearly backdated using correction fluid. It was backdated to allow you to enforce a compulsory execution. Why are there such tax officers? Why are there such tax agencies? The government has pestered the people for 18 years. The case is still not settled. Clearly, there is something wrong with the government. Either it is not capable, or there is something wrong with its mindset.
Then we should surrender and stop, right? You
are just being unreasonable, so you would make such senseless remarks.
The Taijimen case cannot be resolved. Taxation human rights do not exist.
Our taxpayers' rights are almost non-existent. The case has been ruled not guilty by the court, the Control Yuan, and the Supreme Administrative Court, but you keep paying them with the same tax bills.
And the Supreme Court ruling has stated that what the Taijimen Dizzy gave to Shifu was a gift, not a tuition.
The grievance of Taijimen should have been solved 10 years ago. But why is it still unresolved? Because you are the first type of the largest illegal taxation administrative sanctions, is to withdraw it.
National Taxation Bureau can quickly use the previous cases, from 1993 to 1996 to present the 1992 case to Minister Su to make a dismissal. I think he can do it. He also must have such a responsibility. I sincerely hope that Minister Su, you will dismiss this case yourself and take up the responsibility.
For over 25 years, Taijimen Shifu and Dizzy have persevered and insisted on upholding the truth and justice, urging the Taiwanese government to implement reform, rectify fabricated, false, and unjust cases, to make Taiwan a true democracy governed by the rule of law.